I think that if Europe wants to have a meaningful strategy towards Russia and help Ukraine, then we should start by trying to understand what are Russia's aims in Ukraine, why Russia is doing the sort of thing it's doing. In this context, there are many motivations. Many Russians point out the domestic political context because Putin's dwindling popularity is again up. There are economic, military, geopolitical context. But I think one of the most important things that is at stake is rules of the game. I think that Putin wants to not only restore but also re-legitimize spheres of influence as an organizing principle of international life in Europe. And he wants to replay the end of the Soviet Union. Not to restore the Soviet Union, but to replay its end so that Russia would be able to dictate terms to Europe, its former satellite states, its former constituent parts. To be able to tell what these countries can do, what they cannot do, which organizations they can join, which they cannot join. So I think Russia's behavior is revisionist in that sort of rules of the game's context. And that makes it very hard and very fundamental. Rules of the games are fundamental. This is how we live. These are the rules and taboos that will guide all future incidents. But at the same time, even if we intellectually understand how important it is, when liberal international order needs to be defended in Donbass, that few people have visited and few people have even heard anything pleasant about, then it is really hard to understand the situation, to mobilize, to come up with a strategy and to mobilize action. So I think that's why we need such discussions, to understand what is going on, what does it mean, what is at stake, and what should we do.
And what do you think about the next election in Ukraine? How will the relations of Ukraine change towards the EU and Russia? And what do you think could happen from now until the date of the election? Will the truce last, or will we witness more conflict?
When it comes to relations with the EU, I don't think Greece will change very much. I mean, Ukrainians have made up their minds about the EU. Our lifestyle attracts them, and what I find impressive is that these are exactly the right things about European lifestyle that attract Ukrainians. It's the rule of law, it's relative lack of corruption, etc. It's not agricultural subsidies that also can be very attractive to many countries that aspire to join. But Ukraine is really attracted to value-based things. So I don't think that will change with the elections. The key question about the elections is whether Ukraine will finally manage to produce a proper political elite or not. Because so far, Ukraine has amazing population. These people are really very mature, very practical, very down-to-earth, very warm-hearted. Everything you can want. Also increasingly well self-organized, but they haven't managed to produce political elites that would be worthy of them. Ukraine's political elites have been weak and corrupt, and we could see that actually in February during the crisis in Maidan. No opposition politicians could even represent Maidan because they were part of discredited elites and society was about something completely else. So I think it's important that society joins politics, that society in the end conquers its state and starts ruling its state rather than controlling it from outside via NGOs. So I think that is the most important question about the elections. As to whether ceasefire lasts, we will see. That depends on Russia. And Russia is very clear about its strategic aims, which are what I described about the rules of the game. Concretely in Ukraine, I think Russia wants leverage over Kiev's policies and choices. And Russia wants to dominate the eastern regions in order to gain leverage over Kiev. But that's a strategic game. On tactical level, Russia is very flexible, so they can behave as they wish with ceasefire. So I'm not prepared to give a concrete answer to it. I think there is a chance that it will last.